If I could dedicate this channel to anyone, it would be to Martin Scorsese. If I could dedicate my love of film to any filmmaker specifically, it would be Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese is probably my favorite director in the world. Um, I think that he's the greatest living American artist as well, and by extension of that, or by proxy of it, one of the greatest living philosophers as well. So something wild I just realized about myself is that when I think of pure cinema, when I think of complete and total cinema, I think of moments from Martin Scorsese. I think of the lyricality of Martin Scorsese. I think of Travis Bickle. I think of New York Smog. I think of Henry Hill. I think of Jake LaMotta. I think of Mean Streets. I think of Silence. I think of these moments. These hyper-dynamic moments. And I always said this about Martin Scorsese, but you could watch most of his films on mute because his musings, his composition is so lyrical, so musical, that visually and just by the choreography of the scenes and the characters, players, and objects involved, your mind will start to formulate a melody. It will actually deconstruct the scene down to its base essentials, like smooth jazz. What's more wild than me realizing that when I think of what I consider pure or perfect cinema, it is that, and it's mostly because of his use of slow-mo as well in these brilliantly choreographed scenes. And when Martin Scorsese would use slow motion, he would use it almost counterintuitively. He would actually be stretching out the moment to show you how fleeting it is, how impermanent it all is, by stretching out a moment. And that's a counterintuitive genius that is just so simply remarkable that you can't find it anywhere else, and it's just so perfect and it strikes you so simply. But what's more crazy than that is that now I've realized, I grew up on Martin Scorsese. I went through all of the different periods of my life through the lens of Scorsese films. When I look back on my life, I'm finding that I'm remembering them in a way that could only be translated by Scorsese, by his compositional methods. I am remembering my life as Martin Scorsese would have composed it. I'm remembering my friends in slow motion, slowly lighting cigarettes, gazing over a decline, a social and inevitable decline. I'm thinking of that song on the radio that seemed to just follow me everywhere. I'm thinking of being in a mental ring of just brutish male violence. I'm thinking of Sisyphean courage. I'm thinking of religious experiences in my everyday life, because that's the secret of Scorsese. Every single film he's ever made is actually a film about God and a film about religion, and has a complete and distinct spiritual dimension to them, even if it's not overt. When I think of my life, I think of Scorsese. I think of it the way that Scorsese would film it. I've learned the most valuable lessons from film from Martin Scorsese. Absolutely. It's a filmmaker who completely inspires me and shocks me and makes me realize why I love film. He not only turned me into a devotee of cinema, into a complete cinephile, he's translated my life into a way that I could better understand and better appreciate the fleeting moments of it. That is like completely astonishing to me. I love Martin Scorsese. Raging Bull is my favorite Martin Scorsese film. It's also one of my favorite films of all time. It has just changed me completely. It's a film that I'm always afraid to watch because it's going to be so challenging and so hyper intimate and so intense. It's such an intense experience. Goodfellas is one of the greatest movies ever made. I'm not going to list every single one of his films, but, Taxi Driver, Silence, Gangs of New York, The Age of Innocence, Mean Streets. This man's films have catapulted my soul into a dimension worth translating into film. When I think of my past, I literally think of it as a scene from Goodfellas, or as a scene from Casino, as an extension of a Scorsese film. He's helped me translate that memory into something that I can slow down in my mind, and only way that Scorsese could capture it. Martin Scorsese isn't just why this channel ultimately exists. He isn't just why I love film. He isn't just what cinephilia, what being a film lover represents to me in its totality, at its maximum virtue. No, Scorsese is life. Not static being, but dynamic becoming. And dynamic becoming on a whole nother level than my usual waxes of poetry. I could wax poetic here forever. I love Martin Scorsese. His films are life. The films of Martin Scorsese have translated the meaning of my life, because it was just completely confusing. Completely perplexing. But if I could slow down my life in the way that Martin Scorsese can completely compose a film, then I can look at it through the lens of Scorsese, and oh my god, I understand so much more about myself, and that's incredible. I honestly think that's astonishing. God, why do people fall in love with film so heavily? Because certain filmmakers hit certain people so hard. And Scorsese always hits me hard. He's one of the most phenomenal artists to have ever existed, and he's quintessentially American. He's indisposable, he's amazing. He's incredible. I love Martin Scorsese. I made this video because I've realized that the way that I look back on my own life and the memories that make it up is through the lens of a Scorsese sequence. Like, that's insanity to me. I never realized that. And it goes hand in hand with every time I think of pure cinema, whatever that complete vague concept that every cinephile has their own hyper-specific definition of, I think of Martin Scorsese. Completely, utterly, without hesitation. But with complete devotion, and with complete courage. The man is an absolute genius. I love his films to death. I really hope you didn't mind me waxing poetic, I asked you to make this video. Because I realized that Martin Scorsese is life. And that we all have that filmmaker. In the comments below, which filmmaker do you think best translates your own understanding of your own life? When you think back on certain parts of your life, you may find that they seem to have more in common with a very specific type of composer. Like who? Blank is life. Leave it in the comments. Who is your life translator when it comes to film? Mine is Martin Scorsese. He's my favorite director of all time. And he's incredibly important to me. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. It's just going to be more of this. Just more complete and insane but pure love. And authentic love. For film. For cinema. For Martin Scorsese. Thank you guys.